Money maker. A high interest savings account. Money maker. How many of these things do you have? Probably not many. Your long-term financial plan should include putting at least some of your money into things that increase in value. How easy is that? Now, I know what you're saying. Do I really have to worry about this right now? Well, yes! Because the younger you are when you start, the more time your investments have to increase in value. If you want to make money, you have to think long-term. Cool short-term things like cars and electronics, they look good at first, but they don't hold their value. So start building your long-term wealth by investing in long-term money makers. You see, I don't want you to wind up like my friend Jeff. I remember back when we were teenagers.
Hey man, I'm 18 years old. I'm living for today. Investing's for old people in their 40s.
Hey man, were you dissing my van, bro? This was the coolest thing on the road back in 1981.
Ew.
Yes, Jeff, but now you live in it.
Can speak. Okay, thank you so much for that video, Sichoni, who's on our IT background. All right, so good afternoon once more. My name is Stali Mwala Mugala. Welcome to today's town hall. Today we're speaking about capital markets, what they are and how they work. And to start our presentation, we did watch a video that we are just from seeing. It's mainly a summary of everything we're going to discuss about today. So to start off, I'm going to just turn off my camera so that you can all see my screen, and I'll begin the presentation. I'd like to just welcome everybody to the town hall, even the people that are joining us on Facebook. Are we live on Facebook? Please feel free to post your questions in the chat as we go along the presentation. We'll attend to them at the end of the presentation. To our Facebook audience as well, please feel free to send your comments there and your questions there. They will be attended to by the SEC team at the end of their presentation. Thank you. Okay. Can you see my screen? Not yet. Can you see? Just a minute. Let me try and. Just need time to process. This one. Okay, great. Apologies for that. Hope you can all see my screen now. Station, please confirm. We're good? All right. Okay, so start off. Screen sharing. Okay, that's an outline of our presentation today. We're going to talk about the overview of the capital markets and the SEC. So before we get into capital markets, obviously we'll speak about the SEC and the mandate that we have. Then we'll talk about what capital markets are and the role that they play in the economy. And then we're going to speak about how capital markets work and the players that are found in the market. Then we'll also speak to just financial securities in Zambia, like some of the products that we have there, and then the risks that are found in the capital market. Then we'll conclude and take questions after that. So about the SEC. So the Securities and Exchange Commission is the regulator of capital markets in Zambia, SEC for short. We were established in 1993 through an act of parliament, which is the Securities Act Cap 354 of the laws of Zambia, which has now been repealed and replaced, and continued under the Securities Act number 41 of 2016 and amended by the Act number 21 of 2022. Our vision is to be a dynamic regulator of capital markets that is a preferred destination for investments. And also our mission is to safeguard the interests of investors and promote the growth of capital markets for individual and national prosperity. Okay, so our mandate, we have a dual mandate, which is to protect investors in the market and to develop the market. It's a chicken egg kind of situation. So in as much as we would like to develop, we need to develop this market. It's like our mandate. We also need to protect the investors that are in this market that we are developing. And how do we do our investor protection services or function? So we license the players that you find in the market. We do inspections. We do surveillance functions, which is mainly market monitoring. Then we do compliance monitoring as well. We attend to complaints so that we can just ensure that the investors' rights and are not being overstepped or people are not being taken advantage of, and just to ensure that our clients are happy at the end of the day. So the securities that you find in the capital market are registered. So we do have a registration function. Then we also authorize things like collective investment schemes. We do recognitions. This is for things such as the Capital Markets Association of Zambia. So the SROs as well as the LUCE, those are recognized. And then we also carry out investigations for any malpractice in the market. Then in terms of market development, we ensure there's financial inclusion. How we do that is by ensuring that we engage in products and services that are inclusive in the market and that we are not leaving anybody behind, especially in the advent of technology. Then in terms of financial education, we carry out awareness campaigns and sensitizations just to make the public aware of what the capital markets are and the products that are found in the market and the benefits of one investing in the capital markets. We also do things like competitions and challenges, just so that we can also reach out to the younger audience, the youth in the country, and make capital markets more attractive and interesting for them as well. Then in terms of product development, we promote and support the development of new and innovative products through what is called a sandbox, which is something I'll speak to later on in the presentation. Then we also do research and ensure that we are keeping up with trends in the capital market space by also doing just studies and research from other jurisdictions and seeing what is trending there and seeing how best we can introduce it in our market as well. Okay, so what are capital markets? So the definition of the capital market is that capital markets are a platform where individuals and institutions trade in financial securities, that is including stocks, bonds, collective investment schemes, to raise capital for businesses and governments and other organizations. So the purpose of the capital markets is mainly in that in the primary market, it helps to facilitate the flow of funds between the investors and the entities that need capital. So the surplus funds and the deficit funds are brought together in the capital market space. The key functions of the capital market is to raise capital. So the companies and the government are able to issue securities for long-term funding. And then it also offers investment opportunities
for investors to grow wealth by purchasing the securities that are found in the market and yield a return over time. Okay. So the capital market is made up of two markets. There's a primary market and a secondary market. In the primary market, we find the issuance of securities for the first time. So this is where securities are issued for the first time. For example, when a company is about to come to market, they issue their shares for the first time. This is called an initial public offering, and then they receive money from investors. So this happens in the primary market. So the IPO, the issue of securities for the first time, is the primary market side of the capital market. Then in the secondary market, this is where trading of previously issued securities takes place between investors. So the buying and selling of shares to one another as investors takes place in the secondary market. So the securities can be in the form of shares as well as bonds. So that trading part is called the secondary market. So in terms of the financial sector, I just wanted to us to appreciate where the Securities and Exchange Commission falls in the financial sector. So the financial sector is made up of three financial sector regulators. We have the Bank of Zambia, the Pensions and Insurance Authority, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. So from the slide there, you can see that the Bank of Zambia regulates banks and non-banking institutions. Then the Pensions and Insurance Authority regulates the pension sorry, can you hear me? Okay. I need to reshare. Okay, let me just reshare my screen. Apologies for that. Technology. Okay, so we're just speaking about the role of the capital markets in the economy. So the first role is that of capital formation. This means that the capital market helps channel the savings into productive areas, productive investments such as the businesses, expansion of businesses, infrastructure development, and innovation. So that's where capital formation is taking place. Then the second role, that is of economic growth, it provides for long-term projects, meaning it can contribute to job creation, wealth generation, and GDP growth. Then capital markets also offer liquidity. They offer liquidity in that they allow investors to quickly convert their investments into cash by trading the securities that they have invested in. So the capital markets through instruments, through different instruments, provides tools for managing risks related to interest rates, currencies, and commodities. So under risk management, also the function of risk management in the way we regulate the market, the SEC has adopted a risk-based supervision in the supervision of this market, in that we specialize or ensure that we monitor the risks that the players are faced with on a daily basis, and we monitor that and help manage those risks by supervising them under a risk-based framework. Okay. I'm not able to move my screen. Okay. Then we're now going to talk about how capital markets work. So firstly, there's the issuance of securities in the market. This is where the companies that that are listed in the market, they issue stocks and bonds in the primary market, like I said, where capital is being raised for the first time. So the companies issue stocks and bonds in the primary market. Then we have what is called trading of securities. So once those securities are issued in the primary market, there's trading that takes place in the secondary market, allowing investors to buy and sell these instruments. Okay, then we have what is called market regulation. In our case, the Securities and Exchange Commission offers regulation for the securities that are issued in the market. So we ensure that there's integrity, there's transparency, and there's investor protection, which I mentioned as part of our mandate. Then we also ensure that there's market efficiency. So prices of securities in the capital markets are determined by supply and demand forces. So efficient capital markets ensure that the prices reflect all the available information. That is why, as we are supervising our entities, we ensure that there's disclosure of information, of all information that is necessary for one to make an informed decision as they are making their investments. Then we're going to talk about the players that we find in the market. We're going to just see what these players look like. We have the exchanges. So we currently have one functional exchange, which is the Lusaka Securities Exchange. Then on that exchange, we have listed entities as well as quoted entities. Then we have other issuers as well. These are medium-term note issuers. Then other players in the market are intermediaries, such as the stockbrokers, your dealers, your investment advisors. All these are intermediaries who buy and sell or operate people's investment accounts. For example, if you're a stockbroker, you're able to buy and sell. You're facilitating the buying and selling of securities on behalf of investors. Then we have a Central Securities Depository. This is a CSD. The CSD is where the securities that people are investing in, that's the custodian of all the securities that you are investing in as an investor. Then the dealers and representatives that are here are, for example, your bank dealers that are able to buy bonds for you in the secondary market or trade for you in the secondary market. And then also the representatives are just individuals who are working for these dealer institutions. Then we have what are called investment advisors and their representatives. Investment advisors, unlike the dealers or the stockbrokers, do not handle your money as an investor. Instead, they are just there to give you investment advice and help you to decide where you can place your investments. So they are professionals, and their job is to research and find out how the market is performing, and then they'll be able to give you advice based on that. Then we also have collective investment schemes where we have fund managers as a player in the market who manage the collective investment scheme on behalf of investors. Then we also have a trustee who is the custodian of the assets that the collective investment scheme is investing in. Then we have custodian banks as well as credit rating agencies and transfer secretaries. All these are players in the capital market. Coming to the financial securities that you find in the capital market, we have shares, which are also known as stocks or equity. They simply represent ownership in a company. So we find, in terms of stock, we find there are two types. You find common stock as well as preference stock. So how do shares work? So for shares, investors buy the shares to become a part owner of a company with the potential of earning a dividend or capital gains. So the dividend is earned when a company makes a profit, and depending on its dividend policy, they're able to declare a dividend at the end of a financial year and share that profit in form of a dividend to the investors in the company. Then the other benefit there is that of capital gains. So for example, if you bought your stock or your share at 2 kwacha, then 10 years down the line, the share price goes up to 10 kwacha. So the difference there, that the 8, becomes your capital gain in the event that you would like to sell. So that's your capital gain. That's what capital gains are. So once you sell at that higher price, that's after the price has appreciated, that's a benefit of you having invested in the capital markets. Definitely this happens over a long period of time. It's not overnight. Please take note. Then we have bonds also as a product in the capital market. So the bonds simply represent a loan that is made by you, an investor, to the borrowers. And the borrowers are typically institutions, corporates, or the government. And the types of bonds that we find, corporate bonds, we have government bonds, we also have municipal bonds. Then how does this work? As a bondholder, you receive a regular payment, interest payment, and the principal is repaid upon maturity. So, for example, you invest in a bond, a 10-year bond. It means every 6 months you receive your interest payment in form of a coupon every 6 months, and at the end of that period of 10 years, the money that you paid, you lent to the institution, be it the government or a corporate, is given back to you. That's how bonds work. Then we have a collective investment scheme. So these are an investment vehicle that pool funds from multiple investors to invest in a diversified portfolio of securities such as stocks, the bonds themselves, and other financial assets. So the scheme is managed by a professional fund manager. I mentioned earlier that a fund manager is an intermediary in the market. So they're the ones who manage the collective investment scheme on behalf of the investors. So one of the key features of the collective investment scheme is that it offers diversification. By pooling of resources, the CIS allows small investors to have a broad range of assets and reduce risks through diversification. And the other key feature is that it's managed by a professional, like I mentioned, who is the fund manager who invests on behalf of the investors. And it also offers liquidity in that investors can usually buy and sell units at regular intervals in a collective investment scheme, depending on the structure of the fund. And usually because of the pooling of resources, it helps reduce transaction costs, and the costs are spread amongst the many investors that are found in the fund. Okay. Then we have also the sandbox as one of the products that we have in the market. So the sandbox is simply a place where you can test an innovation in a controlled market with less regulation. So the SEC does have a sandbox where we allow for innovations to come into the market. That is usually fintech type of innovations or products to come into the market under a test environment for a specific period of time and test out those products so that we do not just stifle the innovation and say we do not have regulation for it. So while it's in the sandbox, our job as the commission is to study this product and also come up with regulation that once the product is deployed can help govern this innovation. Okay, so we'll now speak about some of the risks that you find in the market. We have market risk, that is the risk of financial loss due to changes in the market prices. For example, the stock markets can crash or the bond prices go down or decline. That is just a risk. It's called a market risk. It's something that is just a loss due to the forces in the market. And then we have what is called credit risk. Is the risk that a borrower will default on their debt obligation. For example, if a bond holder or a bond issuer defaults, it becomes a loss on the bond holder. So that is the credit risk aspect. Then liquidity risk is the risk that an investor may not be able to buy or sell their securities quickly enough, therefore affecting their price. So you may find instances where you would like to buy and sell your shares, for example, as an investor, and there's no match to that instruction, meaning you are not able to sell on time or at the time that you would like to. Then in terms of regulatory risk, is the risk of changes in the law or regulation that could also negatively impact the securities or the market participants. Then we have inflation risk, that the risk that inflation will erode the purchasing power of their investment return. Okay, we have come to the end of our presentation. It was quite short, so that we just have enough time for questions and answers and just discuss further on what capital markets are. In terms of key takeaways, I would like us to just take away the fact that the capital market play a vital role in the global economy by providing mechanism for raising capital, fostering investment opportunities, and facilitating risk management. Then investors participate in the market in securities such as stocks, bonds, collective investment schemes, which are traded in the primary and secondary market of the capital markets. Then the capital markets also have strong regulation. This is to ensure that the market is fair and efficient and operates well, and thus helps to protect the investors and maintains the market confidence. So that's why you find strong regulations in the capital markets. It's also important that you understand the risks associated with capital markets and the products that are found in the market, so that even as you are investing, you are coming from an informed position and that you have all the information relevant to make your investment decision. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation for today. We'll get straight into the questions and answer session. Let me just read out some of the questions that we have. Okay, the first question we have is, what are the requirements for one to be certified as an investment advisor? So we do have on our website a form that has got the requirements on one to be an investment advisor. We can share the link in the chat so that you have access to the requirements for being an investment advisor. It's to state what you need to be an investment advisor, what fees you need to pay, and everything will be stated there. Then the next question is saying, how can one buy shares and how can they determine which company has better dividend payments? Okay, so in order to buy shares on the LUCE, you need to get in touch with the broker. We have a list of brokers on our website again, as well as on the LUCE website. You'll be able to find the contacts as well as the places where these brokers are located for you to just be able to buy shares. So in order to buy shares, the way we open a bank account is the same way that you do that. You open an account with a broker, which is like a brokerage, which is called a brokerage account. And then the broker will be able to advise you which company you'll be able to buy shares in, depending on what you would like. And then in terms of dividend payments, again, this is information that you're able to get from the brokers. Please be mindful that our presentation today is not that of investment advice. Ours is to simply give financial education. Yeah, I just thought I mentioned that part. Okay, so there's a link in the chat for the LUCE brokers for you to just have access to see which brokers are out there in the market. Okay. The next question is speaking to how efficient is the share price data on the Zambian stock market, the LUCE accurate update in share price variability. How efficient is the share price data? Okay, so the share prices change on a daily basis, and every day, the prices that you see, the prices are posted on the LUCE website, as well as on what is called the SENS, which is the Stock Exchange News. So this is something that you can subscribe to and be able to have access to share prices. I see Gertrude is typing an answer to that as well. Okay. Our next question says, in regards to the innovation sandbox, what would be the investable capacity of the startup, and is it strictly a fintech or open to other sectors? Okay. Gertrude, would you like to come in this one?
Yes, Italy.
Okay, so what
so-
would you do, Gertrude? So mainly, yes, the sandbox is for fintech products. And the reason that we came up with the sandbox is because we noticed that there's a rise in financial technology, and we wouldn't want to just let the market be and not, or rather let people invest in products without being protected. So one of the ways in which we do that is the same sandbox which I talked about. So we test most of the technology or the products that would like to be out there in the market, mostly are fintech in nature. We do have the sandbox requirements where you'll be able to see what type of apologies for that. I seem to have lost my network and dropped out. Okay, yes. So I was attending to the question that's saying, can shares be bought and sold at any time? So you can buy and sell shares at any time. What you simply do, you place your instruction with your broker. That's if you currently have a broker. If you do not have a broker and you'd like to buy, you open a brokerage account, like I mentioned, and then the broker will put the instruction to buy or sell the share that you'd like. Once this instruction is met by an opposite of it, for example, if you'd like to buy, and there's an instruction on the other side to sell, you'll be able to buy that particular stock that you'd like to buy. Okay. The next question says, what risks do shares have? So some of the risks that shares have is the drop in price. That is one that comes quickly to mind, the drop in price. So for example, like I mentioned in my presentation, I had stated that if you buy a share today at 2 kwacha, 10 years down the line, it may go up to 10 kwacha. But then again, it may also still drop to 0.1. So that's a loss on the part of you as a shareholder. So that's one of the risks that you carry. Okay, then this other one says unit trust. How can you touch on them a little? How do they work? Okay, so I mentioned that a collective investment scheme is a pool of funds of multiple investors that have invested in a diversified portfolio. So the collective investment scheme, like I mentioned, is run or it's operated, managed by a fund manager. Okay, so they buy, they get resources from different investors and buy different products that are found in the market. For example, they are able to buy or invest for you in various products. Instead of you going to buy shares individually, the fund manager then collects money from different people in a pooled nature and invests in the shares, and they do so in large quantities, meaning you benefit from from economies of scale, because there's a lot of you that are investing in these shares, and you get to spread the risk as well as share in the profits at the end of the day. And then another aspect of the fund, of the collective investment scheme, is that you're able to sell a bit quicker than in the event of shares. If you wanted to exit a collective investment scheme, it's a bit easier or quicker, depending on the type of fund that you've gotten into. Is it an open-ended fund or a closed-ended fund? Okay. How does the Luce mobile application work? That's a question from an anonymous attendee. I know I have Gertrude on the call. Gertrude, would you like to assist with that question?
Yes, thank you, Sitali. So the mobile app basically just enables you to buy or sell shares. So I think that, like most apps, you have to download the app and then create an account, upload KYC documentation, and then just follow the prompts. Are you buying? Are you selling? Do you need to load your wallet if you're buying? So just follow the prompts depending on what it is that you want to do. And basically that's what should happen. But then also you have to keep in mind that in a case where, say, you're buying, it's not like you will then have the security instantly or the share that you're buying instantly. You should remember that settlement will still only happen T+3, which means the day that you trade, and then 3 additional working days to allow for clearing and settlement of the funds, as well as the actual security. So that actual moving of money and the share from the one who owns the share to the one that's buying, and the money from the one who's buying to the one that's selling the share. So that has to happen before you can either see the share reflecting or the money reflecting. So it works just like any other app, in that you have to download, create your accounts, and upload all those documentation. But remember, for any transaction that you're actually conducting on the app, you won't get either the money there and then if you're selling, and you won't get the share there and then if you're buying. You have to allow for that period for actual settlement of the trade to happen. Thank you, Sitali.
Okay, thank you, Gertrude. And while I still have you here, Gertrude, there's an interesting question here saying, how easy is it to raise funds from the capital market, say for a microfinance institution, and how long can it take for one to raise 5 million kwacha?
How easy is
Yeah.
I could say it's relatively easy if you have everything in place. It's
Yeah.
not a very easy process, in that you have to, of course, engage certain players that are necessary for you to get to a point where you're actually raising that capital. You need to have a sponsoring broker to help you through the process. There's a number of documentation you have to ensure is in place, even as you come to the commission, to have your securities registered. And then depending on how you want to raise that capital, is it through debt or is it through equity? So the processes are a bit different, but you need a broker to walk you through the process, because these are the players that assist you with that process. But you also need lawyers. It's not so straightforward, but if you engage a broker, they'll be able to walk you through the process. From our end, it would just be you registering those securities. But to register those securities, there's a number of documentation you will have to submit. And then you then have to now go out there and raise these funds. That's ensure that one of the documents you need to have is, say, the prospectus, the one that will have all the details about your entity, really communicating to people, selling the business and entity to people so that they can then give you this capital that you're raising. And then getting it out there to people, getting the word out there so that people can actually believe in investing in your business. That's something you have to do, but you would have registered your securities with us. And so the process might not be the same for everyone, but depending on how you want to raise the capital exactly and the team that you have, it might not be so difficult. And then again, it might be a long process if you don't have the right people or the right documentation in place.
Okay. Thank you, Gertrude. Okay, the other question says, I would like to know, can you use the same CSD account as to buy shares and units? This is from Kelvin Wally. I'm not sure, Kelvin Wally, which CSD account you're referring to, but in the presentation, the CSD account, CSD that I mentioned was the Central Securities Depository where your shares are being held. And then in terms of a CSD account, you can open a CSD account from the Bank of Zambia to buy bonds for yourself. So the CSD account at the exchange holds your shares and units, while as the CSD account at the Bank of Zambia is for trading in your bonds. Am I right, Gertrude?
Yes, you are. But maybe just to add, my understanding of the units would be the CIS unit.
Oh, yeah.
So then maybe just to add that when you're buying units, they're not kept in a CSD. So you just open an account with a respective fund manager who's managing the fund you want to invest in, and then you buy units in that fund because the funds are unitized. So instead of say shares, you have units into that fund, but those are not in any CSD.
Yes. Thank you for that, Gertrude. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next question is you mentioned 2 exchanges listed in the slides. Apart from Lucy, what's the other exchange? Okay, so the other exchange is not functional. So that's why I have not mentioned it. In Zambia, are we able to buy stock in international organizations, e.g. Tesla and Netflix? Gertrude, could you assist with that?
Okay, so nothing stops you from investing outside of the country, only that you so for securities that are sold in the country, we regulate capital markets in the country. So if you decide to invest outside of the country, you then just know that that's not a security that is regulated by SEC Zambia. You then have to ensure that is regulated in that jurisdiction that you are investing in. So nothing really stops you. You just have to know that you then have to look at those regulators or say supervising the activity you're involved in. Hope it answers.
Okay,
Sally,
thank
got
you,
that?
Gertrude. Yes, thank you. How does one access, the next question is, how does one access the Lucy app if their broker is not amongst the options on the app? So I think Gertrude did mention in her response that you have to pick a broker from the app in order for you to use the app. So if your broker is not on the app, it means you need to use a broker that is on the app. You have to open another brokerage account with the broker that's on the app in order for you to use the app. Okay. We have another one saying, is it safe to invest? Okay. How developed and liquid are secondary markets for stocks and bonds in Zambia? Can one easily exit a position without losing too much money? Firstly, you need to know that buying or trading in stocks and bonds or any type of investments is risky. So I mentioned in terms of liquidity risk, maybe at the time that you would like to buy the stock, you find the stock is maybe not available in the quantity that you require it or the price that you require it. So I wouldn't speak to you losing your position because that in terms of money, because the prices of the stock are determined by demand and supply in the market. But you can easily exit the market once your order to exit, that is to sell, is matched by another person who would like to buy from your broker's end, from the end of the broker once they put in your instruction to buy or to sell. Okay, so this is a question talking about the stockbrokers news. It's I think what you are referring to is, could you repeat the site of the stockbrokers news? Okay, so this is I mentioned that you can have access to closing prices via what is called the stock exchange news. So this is something that one can subscribe to from the Luce. If you go on the Luce website, there are instructions on how you can become a subscriber to that. You subscribe to them sending you the stock exchange news, which can then give you access to information about stock prices, as well as any other information relevant to the companies that are listed on the Luce. Okay. There's another question saying, is Lupia out of the sandbox or testing is still being done? Okay, so in terms of the sandbox, the first cohort of the sandbox closed, and we did issue a statement as the SEC on our position that we are still just doing closing, what can I call them? Just putting some things in order in the background in terms of the closing of the first cohort before we can open for the second cohort. But the testing period for all the institutions that were in the first cohort has come to an end, and we're just finalizing the closing reports and whatnot. Okay, so then there's another question saying, are you able to highlight briefly the requirements for a company to qualify for an IPO on the stock market? So in order to qualify for an IPO, firstly, you need to register the securities that you would like issued to the public with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Again, we do have registration requirements that are stated on our website. That's something we can post in the chat as well. So you'll be able to see what is needed there from our registration side in order for one to issue shares to the market for the first time. just get in touch with us and see how best you can participate. But then the other ways that you can become a capital markets ambassador by registering for the Capital Markets Ambassador program. Unfortunately, the registration for the last one just ended, but we will definitely be opening up for participation. But that doesn't stop you from participating. Then maybe another aspect that I can mention, in order for you to even be able to do any financial education, you also need to ensure that you've gone through some kind of training. So we have a foundation course under the CISI, that is the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment, that is being conducted at ZCAS. You're able to register for that course. It just teaches you basic things about financial markets and investments. Then that becomes a bit easier for you to take part in an education campaign. That is, if you'd like to offer education, financial education. And then we also have the stockbroking course, which also enables you to learn more about the capital markets and just be conversant with what goes on in the market. After which, if you'd like to then become an investment advisor, you would then be required to get a license from SEC and be able to practice investment advice. Please take note that the two courses that I mentioned earlier do not mandate you to do investment advice, but just financial education. Then there's another question saying, is there a historic list of companies that have paid dividends in the last few years to date? If so, where can I find it? Okay, so usually the dividends transfer secretaries are able to give you this information, and you'll be able to find them on our website as well. If not, please just drop us an email. We'll be able to assist you with how you go about this. Okay, then I think we have a lot of questions, Gertrude, regarding the Lucy app. There's another one saying, good afternoon, thank you for the insightful presentation and the initiative for these regular meetings. Well done, thank you for that. Yesterday, I downloaded the Lucy app, and when I opened, it just said services unavailable. I had read the reviews beforehand, and there were very low ratings coupled with complaints about its non-functionality. Is the app being worked on, and if so, when can users expect a functional and improved version? Gertrude, do we have a response to that?
Somehow I can respond. So the Lucy app is Lucy's app. So the Lucy are the ones that are managing this app and working on the app. So whether they identify issues and they need to fix any bugs, they get to do that. Yeah, so everything that involves the app is done by Lucy. And so we wouldn't be in a position to know when that notice you saw would be going down or when it would be able to work, because it's run by Lucy and not the SEC.
Yeah, very true. Thank you for that,
I wish
Gertrude.
I could give a better response that would be helpful, but it's Lucy that's running the app, so I wouldn't be able to give that information.
Okay. Thank you for that. We have another question as we are about to close now. Where does one find a fund manager? So I mentioned that on our website, you'll be able to find a list saying dealers. So you'll be able to go under there and take a look at the dealers that are there. Some of them are fund managers. Or we'll drop the link in the chat for the specific list of fund managers. Yeah, we'll drop it in the chat, sorry. And then another one saying which investments it's better, shares or unit trusts. Like I mentioned in the presentation, we're not here to give investment advice. We're just offering education. So in that view, I'm not able to tell you that go ahead and put your invest in shares. They are better than unit trusts, or unit trusts are better than shares. We're not able to do that. But what we can tell you is that you are able to diversify, meaning you can invest both in shares and unit trusts. But if you'd like to know the details of how the shares are performing, for example, please engage a professional and licensed investment advisor. And then the last question that I'll take is, how can one get in touch with the broker's account and how can you help in choosing one? Like I mentioned, again, we're not able to endorse any broker here. So we are not going to, I'm not going to be able to tell you to go to this particular broker, but you're going to find again the list of dealers that are available. That's where you can find the broker. And as you're going about choosing the broker, the same way that we choose when we do when we're going shopping, we shop around. So I'd encourage you to shop around, meaning you can consult or talk to all the brokers that we have there. They have got different terms and conditions. Then from there, you can make your decision which brokers to open an account with. I hope that's helpful. Okay. As we come to the end of our presentation and town hall for today, I'd like to invite our CEO to just come in and say one or two things. Mr. Chitalu.
Thank you very much. I think well handled town hall. Quite a number of interesting questions. I've had my hand up the whole time, but I can't even remember maybe what I needed to say. Except to say what I've said, the well handled presentations and questions. I think there are a couple of questions where I just thought maybe I add on to what my colleagues have said, starting with the Luce app. Whilst the Luce app, like the name suggests, and what my colleague Gertrude said, it's a Luce app, the Lusaka Stock Exchange. We are the Securities and Exchange Commission. However, we have a lot of interest in terms of financial inclusion, and this can be achieved from easier market access. We do get to meet with the Luce on a number of times, trying to encourage them to see that we strongly believe this is an important tool that should be able to reduce access costs. Because then you can do it in your bedroom, on a couch, under a tree, or wherever you are, as long as you have connectivity. So we have an interest. And I hope that, like Gertrude has said, that this year the Luce, when I say we, it's about the market, that together we can progress this particular project, get to hopefully iron out all the matters that you, the users, have brought forward to the Luce. I challenge my colleagues, the presenter and Gertrude, to immediately get to the Luce and deliver the message. I think so many questions about the app that have come from you. Then I also wanted to comment on the question with respect to raising funds. I think capital markets are for larger long-term fundraisings. I think somebody said, can I raise 5 million kwacha? Unless we come up with innovative windows, which we are trying to do in the sandbox, 5 million kwacha is not a lot of money. But what I wanted to say is we have two microfins that are probably larger and can use economies of scale to raise funds. One of them is Bearport. They've always been raising funds, starting with their flagship $30 million about 5, 6, 10 years ago. And then we have Israel as well. They raise tens, if not hundreds of millions of kwacha on the capital markets. This is public information that I'm sharing. Check their financials and you should be able to see for yourself what I'm talking about. The issue of dividends, you can actually go to the annual financial statements, and especially that most of the listed entities are now publishing their 2024 financials and AGM results and agenda. You can actually get to see which of the 22 listed businesses have been consistent in declaring dividends. But if you were to speak to your financial advisor, you may discover that there are a number of ways of looking at investing in securities or stocks and shares. Are you looking for dividends or are you looking for growth? Again, like my colleagues have said, we are not financial advisors. We can't advise you whether to invest for dividends or invest for growth. I think those are some of the areas that I just thought I add on to what has already been discussed. Thank you very much. Back to you, ladies.
Okay, thank you so much, CEO, for that. And we've come to the end of our town hall for today. It's 16:06. We usually have our town halls for just an hour. I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us. And we have had a number of questions, both on Facebook and also in our inbox today. So we will attend to these questions. What we do is, for everyone who has registered here, you did register via your email. So we will respond to the questions and circulate alongside the presentation so that you have some responses to the questions that you raised. So join us again next month for another interesting town hall. In the month of April, we'll be looking at collective investment schemes. Okay, so on the last Thursday of the month, we will delve deep into what the collective investment schemes are. Then we'll look at shares, then we'll look at bonds in the subsequent town halls. So thank you once again for joining us. See you again next month, same place, same time. Good day.